Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started right about now. If you're still getting in, we'd love to hear from you, know where you're coming to us from today. I think we've got people all across the US today, and some people saying go Birds, recent Super Bowl, so that's great. I'd like to welcome you to our session, Making Sense of AI and Analytics in HR and Payroll. Today's session is presented by our partners at ADP, and we're so excited to have them with us today. So with that said, I'm just going to go over just a few housekeeping items before we dive into the main event. So everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise to a minimum, but as you can see, we'd love for you to participate in the chat, chime in, give us your ideas, anything like that. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so we're going to hold those questions till the end, but you can ask questions at any time using the question section of the profile. So if you look in the right-hand side, you should have questions, you should have the chat, and then also the poll section. So we're going to be doing some polls throughout the session. We'd love to hear from you. We'll launch them on the screen, but you'll be able to access all those things in the right-hand side of the platform. We're also going to be recording today's presentation. So, for those people that registered but were unable to attend, or if you have teammates you want to pass this on to later, we will send you that recording tomorrow. So with that said, we're so excited that you've joined us today. SWK is always here to help you get the most out of your software and solutions and really fulfill your vision of a smarter and easier way to run your business. So I want to go ahead and pass it over to our presenters at ADP today so we can dive into things. So I'm going to introduce you to Max Roach to get us started.
Thanks, Court. Appreciate it. So just a couple of ideas and thoughts for the presentation today. So we're going to talk about AI a lot, which is great because there's obviously a lot of uncertainty out in the market around what's happening with AI specific to finance, payroll, HR, high level overview, and then we'll jump into some of the specific use cases. And there's a lot of human capital management softwares on the market that are all diving into the AI space. So as I talk about our use cases specific to ADP, just know that at this point, everybody is jumping into the AI world, and there's obviously a lot of other softwares and things like that are going to be able to support. But I'm going to speak specifically to the use cases that we are building inside of ADP Workforce Now, and be able to help you get a little bit of better understanding how it's going to allow us to do things much faster, much more effectively, and also at scale. Quick disclaimer, this is not legal advice. This is not a political opinion. So just want to make sure that you all had a chance to see this. Quick agenda, go through some high level overview of what's happening in the market from an AI perspective. Then I'll get into a little bit about what's happening with ADP, thinking about in the think tank of our CPO, our CDO, they think about the future of ADP. Like what are they focusing on specific to AI? And then ultimately how you can gain efficiencies through being able to leverage AI. So we're going to do a quick poll question to be able to kick this off. So Courtney, I'll kick it back over to you for the quick poll. If you could throw it into the chat.
Hey there. So that poll is live in the chat. We've also got it on screen here. So I'm interested to see, kind of what these results are as we go. Max, what's your answer here? Are you all the time, occasionally?
All the time. I'm not going to lie. I used it last night for my kids' homework, and I had done the work with my child before, but I just wanted to make sure that I was right, and I was. So yes, I do leverage ChatGPT quite a bit, and I'm all in on all things AI for
sure. I totally get that. Those like math problems that you learned, 10 years ago, and you're like, how do I, it's great. So it looks like we've got people kind of across the board here. Only 16% are saying all the time. I think that, makes sense. a good bit, 50% occasionally, and about 28% rarely. So, I think a plus side here is no one's saying they've never, ever have any experience. So, no, that's good. At least you kind of heard of it before. I'd hope so with this webinar, but that's exciting. I think we'll dive in now.
Yeah, I was reading an article just last week, and it was I think Harvard Business Review or Gallup or Deloitte or something, and it said, "Don't worry about robots or flying cars. If you haven't leaned into AI and HR, you may find yourself being left behind." And it takes me into, and again, this is not a test, this is not a pop quiz, but I love to be able to share this with you all because it speaks specifically to how fast and how quickly technology is continuing to grow. So as you think about apps you may have used today at some point, social, business, personal, whatever it may be, what was the fastest app to reach 100 million users? Fastest app to reach 100 million users. You can throw it in the chat, and Courtney, if you keep an eye on it, let me know. Fastest app to reach 100 million users. Go.
We don't have anyone in the chat yet, but maybe they're like me. They're also stumped. We've got someone said Twitter. So maybe.
Close. So Twitter, it took them 5.5 years, right now X, 5.5 years to reach 100 million users. ChatGPT did it in 2 months, and it's already been outpaced by Threads. So I share this only to tell you that the wait and see, anytime new technology, new compliance comes out, there's always this wait and see mentality from an employer perspective. Oh, ACA rolls out. Well, we're going to wait and see what happens. Pay transparency rolls out. Oh, we're going to wait and see what happens. The wait and see mentality is not a sustainable strategy moving forward. This is growing so quickly. It's a lean in or get left behind type of mentality. Last year, 43% of professionals were already leveraging some type of AI, ChatGPT for work-related tasks. So hopefully you get an understanding of the importance today and also some pitfalls to avoid and how, as an organization, you can start to create a culture of AI and being able to ensure that you've got policy procedures in place to ensure that it's being used, securely and effectively. And again, it's only going to help you in your roles. Right now, if you're, again, I'll talk about a little bit of a Gartner study, like 60% of HR professionals are not certain of how this can impact human capital management, payroll, finance, et cetera. And again, it's like lean in or get left behind. So I'll touch on that here in a few minutes, but I want to talk to you about some fruit today. So why are we talking about blueberries? Well, it's interesting because if you've used ChatGPT or you haven't, I love this exercise because it's one of those things, especially as I was talking through the holidays, you're getting together with family, friends, you're sitting around a table, you're at dinner, open your ChatGPT app and type in where is the R in the letter blueberry. And so we're going to talk a little bit about exactly what that means. So there's no doubt that generative AI is going to allow us to surface insights. It's going to be able to proactively notify you as practitioners of the good and the not so good that's happening within your organization from a human capital management perspective. If you think about generative AI technology at the front end for how your organization drives productivity, profitability, revenue, et cetera, all you want to ensure is that whatever type of technology that you're partnering with, it's got a very deep and very specific data set to your industry. Because as you think about how you prompt any type of generative AI technology, that's the initial question that you're asking. You want to make sure that there's a very deep and specific data set that's going to respond. And if there's no deep and specific data set that's driving the responsiveness of the initial prompt, then you're going to get wrong answers. So it's going to make us much more efficient in what we do day in and day out. So why are we talking about blueberries? So if you go into ChatGPT and you type in, where is the letter R in the word blueberry? You're going to get some wild responses. A couple of responses. There is no R. There isn't the letter blueberry. The letter R falls prior to the last letter in the word blueberry, which is not wrong. right? But it's not right either, right? It's the last two letters prior to the last letter in the word blueberry. So this is again like what they talk about hallucinations. So hallucinations happen when there's not specificity in the initial prompt, and there's not a very deep and specific data set that's driving the responsiveness. Think about how many times somebody typed in, where's the letter R in the word blueberry in the ChatGPT? Very few and far between. So think about generative AI and the risks that are out there. Hallucinations, ensuring that you're removing any bias, making sure that you're approaching this ethically. And then there's, again, secure data and privacy that's driving the responsiveness of the tool. We all know what hallucination is. Here's Webster's dictionary response of exactly what an hallucination is. But if you go back into ChatGPT and you were to type in, number the letters in the word blueberry and help me identify where the R's fall, you'll get an exact response, because your prompt was much more specific than the initial prompt, which is just, where's the letter R in the word blueberry, right? So again, it comes down to specificity in the initial prompt. So congratulations, you're all certified on Prompt Engineering 101. So congratulations, round of applause for everybody that's on the call. So specificity in the initial prompt, a very deep and very specific data set that's driving the responsiveness of the tool is going to ensure accuracy. So let's talk about bias and ethics. You're going to hear about this out in the market. You probably already heard about a couple of organizations who got themselves in a little bit of trouble, right? Because they're not necessarily secure, and there's some bias that's a part of these responses. So you got to make sure that, again, as you think about what's most important to your organization, data security, data integrity, it's everything to ADP. Without it, we are nothing. So again, as you think about ADP's approach to data integrity, security, disaster recovery, password protection, right? Like, it's the exact same approach that we have to generative AI as well. So we have 1,000+ employees who's continuing to massage the models, continuing to massage our prompts to ensure that we're going to make sure that the exact question, right down to the employee level, is going to get an accurate and exact response based off of what that initial prompt was. As you think about things that you can do organizationally to create a culture of generative AI, you can start to put committees in place. You could start to collaborate with your IT, your VP of strategy around technology, and be able to put a team together to help identify how are you as an organization going to start to leverage generative AI for how you drive revenue, for how you drive profitability, but also ensure that we're accurate, we're safe, we're secure, and we're keeping our data private as well. There's a couple of things you want to make sure, right? With generative AI, the good thing is that we're going to talk about a bunch of use cases. We're going to talk about how you can recruit and how you can leverage generative AI in your recruiting processes to make sure that you're focusing your time and efforts on the best people that are coming through your funnel. So what I will tell you is that while we're going to help and, again, do things much faster, much more effectively, and at scale, it's never going to take away from the human touch, right? We're going to surface and provide you insights and give you the ability to be able to take action, but you are going to have to take that action. No one is going to replace you. No one, the generative AI technology is not going to replace any roles across finance, across HR. There's always the human oversight. We have to continue to mitigate bias. There's got to be transparency. We continue to monitor all of the models. As you think about the large language models, you think about our AI models, we continue to massage those. And again, we create a culture of responsible AI, and there's ongoing training. It's inclusive. Make sure that you're bringing individuals across your organization into helping you understand as a company what's going to make the most sense for you and how you drive revenues and how this is going to make your lives easier, so you can truly focus on the strategy within your roles, because it's going to ultimately help you take a lot of those mundane, very tactical processes and remove them through technology. So at the end of the day, you don't have to worry about blueberries and you don't have to worry about raspberries, because if you ask ChatGPT in the word raspberry, where's the R, you're going to get a completely false answer there as well. So it's interesting. Hopefully you take this exercise. You've already done it today, or you're going to do it tonight and you're sitting around the dinner table with your family, or hopefully you put your phones away while you're at dinner, and afterwards you get a chance to take a look at ChatGPT and you throw in where blueberry is, where raspberry is, and hopefully you get a laugh out of it. So I think we're going to go to our next poll question. So Courtney, I'll kick it over to you.
Yes, so that next poll is launching right now. So, stay tuned. It'll be in your poll section in just a moment. So, in this poll, we're asking, which HR function do you think would benefit the most from AI? So there's a few options there, recruitment and candidate screening, things like that, employee engagement and retention, performance and compensation management, payroll and reporting. So, there's tons and tons of potential, but where do you think AI would benefit most? And Max, kind of what are your thoughts on this? I'm intrigued to see what you think.
Yeah, this dovetails nicely into our next section because there's a lot of uncertainty that's out there in the market, and there's not really a exact answer. But I will tell you that it's going to impact every step of the employee life cycle as you think about human capital management. And so I'm excited to share some of the use cases with you all, which we wait till the very, very end to obviously unveil what are the most frequently used use cases within our software right now.
I know, look at me, I'm trying to jump ahead too far. But, interesting to see, we're really across two categories right now. So recruitment and candidate screening and payroll and reporting seem to be dominating the space. So intrigued to find out if that's, kind of where we're going or not.
Yeah, so of course. So it's interesting. I will say that we've been so used to leveraging AI from a personal perspective. I always tell this story. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, just about 20 minutes south of the city, and we've been here for about 4 years. Spent most of our career in the Carolinas. We've been here for about 4 years, and my wife works for Vanderbilt, large orthopedic, hospital system, and she was going to multiple clinics throughout each week. And after a couple of weeks of going to Nashville West and Franklin and Mount Juliet and downtown to the Vanderbilt actual campus to see the athletes and the NHL team that's there, eventually what happens is AI starts to pick up on that. And Apple Maps, as she went into her car and plugged in her phone, it was automatically taking her to where she needed to go without her typing in anything to Apple Maps. And the next day, and it was probably about Wednesday, Thursday into the week, she was like, it's just crazy. I plugged in my Apple CarPlay and it was automatically taking me exactly where I needed to go. And I'm like, that is pattern recognition. That's a huge part of machine learning. This is, again, reducing steps, making it easier for you to get to where you need to go. So we've been leveraging this so long from a personal perspective, and now we're going to start to see the benefits professionally. Everyone in the market is touting and talking about what they are building from a generative AI perspective. Right? You've got all of the HCM vendors, you've got a lot of the co-pilots that are out there, a lot of the firms that are talking about what they are building. And we're pretty fortunate that our generative AI solution, ADP Assist, which we'll get into later on in the presentation, right, is winning awards. And it's because we have such a very deep and very specific data set to human capital management. So it's always going to ensure accuracy in the response, even down to the employee level. If you wanted to type in a question, when was the last time that Max received a pay increase? You're going to get that within seconds. Think about creating reports. You just hit the poll, creating reports within seconds, because you have the ability to be able to type in a question or click on a question and get a response within seconds. That's game-changing, breaking type of things. It's ultimately going to, again, allow you to really focus on the strategy within your roles. This really dovetails nicely into the last poll question. So I'm going to draw your attention to the left-hand side of this slide. This was a survey that was created and done, right, specific to the small business, the mid-market, and the enterprise space. And it asks, where do you feel AI is going to have the biggest impact in these major buckets in the human capital management space? HR, recruiting, payroll, onboarding, learning, DE&I, et cetera. I'll draw your attention to the learning aspect. In the mid-market space, only 24% of individuals surveyed felt like AI was going to have an impact on learning management. I'm here to tell you, it should have been 100%, because we can recommend specific courses without anyone having to kickstart that process. based off of courses that have already been completed, based off of their roles, based off of their licensing and certification, everything within their employee profile. It ties into performance management, which ties into succession planning. So ultimately, where is that individual going? Where's their next step within the career? And the technology is intuitive enough to be able to recommend specific courses based off of their next step in their career, to be able to keep that individual engaged with your organization and mitigate any turnover risks that you have. So it's an education piece. Hopefully you're starting to understand where this has the ability to be able to improve on your processes as an organization. But again, there's a lot of uncertainty that's going on out in the market. And this is, again, on the right-hand side, I'll draw your attention there. This is from a Gartner study. 60% of HR leaders, finance leaders like yourself here on the call, uncertain on the impact that generative AI can have on the human capital management finance aspect of the business. But of those 60%, there's 76 that know if they don't implement something sooner than later, they may find themselves very quickly left behind. So I will tell you, if you are a part of the 60% on this call right now, I'm not going to ask people to raise hands or throw it in the chat. It's here to stay. Lean in and learn and understand how this has the ability to be able to impact your role specifically in a positive manner. This is a study that came from Eightfold. Eightfold AI is who UKG partners with for their AI solutions. ADP, we have built our own. We did not go out and partner. We've built our own generative AI solutions. A lot of our human capital management competitors that are out there are building or partnering. And so Eightfold is who UKG partners with, and the 92% of HR leaders intend to increase their use in AI in at least one of these areas. So let's think about it. Benefit automation. You may be familiar with NAYA or decision support. If I'm enrolling in benefits, I'm usually doing it within the last 5 days of open enrollment, and I'm sitting at home with my wife, and it's pretty straightforward at this point. But earlier on in my career, I wasn't really sure what type of plan I should enroll in and exactly what it was going to cost me, etc. But now we have the ability to be able to ask questions and get responses through a technology, decision support. You get removing biases. Think about recruitment. Somebody mentioned this earlier as we think about the polls. You have profile relevancy. You have candidate relevancy. When you have a solution that is all encompassing, not only can we ensure that you're focusing your time and efforts on the best people that are coming through your recruiting funnel, we can also start to connect the dots to, hey, who is our most productive employee in this specific role right now that we are looking to also hire for, based off of licensing, based off of certification, based off of tenure and experience, and start to, again, bring me the best people who on paper look like the most highly productive employee that I currently have within the organization. If you think about ADP, right, like holistically, if our senior vice president of sales, our CEO, could replicate the top 5% of the top performers who were always achieving, always getting the club, always making the most, always getting the best out of these individuals, and we could just create 1,200 of them across the country, like we would do it. And that is what this technology has the ability to do. Who is my most highly productive individual within our organization right now? And how can I leverage technology to be able to identify individuals that are coming to my recruiting funnel who on paper look just like this high productive employee that I currently have? But again, it's never going to take away from the human touch. You're going to bring them through your screening process. You're going to bring them through your interview process. At the end of the day, like, you're going to make the best choice based off of their personality, the culture of the organization. And that's the human oversight that is there. We're just going to ensure you're going to make sure that you're focusing on the best people that you can through this process. So with that being said, let's jump into a little bit around ADP. And if you're in the think tank with our CPO, our CDO, whiteboarding the future of ADP, and I think in the past, our size was sometimes our Achilles heel to our competitors. And if you're starting to understand this conversation and technology and large language models and NLPs and pattern recognition, our size is really our power position. Because we are so big, our technology, our models are learning so much faster than any of the competitors that are out there on the market. So I'll walk you through this. It's a very keep it simple type of mentality. Make it easy, make it smart, and finally make it human. Ensure that every individual across the enterprise interacts uniquely with our technology based off of the type of data that they need to surface and need to see. So we'll start at the bottom pillar here. And I wish I had better like animations to be able to just like focus in on transactions. So we've got 42 million individuals that we're paying globally, 26 million domestically, 1.2 million clients. Think about the amount of transactions, unique clicks that we see within Workforce Now. Every payroll that's processed, every tax that's filed, every onboarding exercise that's completed, every requisition that's pushed out to Monster, Indeed, Career Builder, LinkedIn, wherever it may be. And for sake of conversation, think about termination transactions. Last year, we saw over 12 million plus termination transactions. So our data scientists aggregate all that data, those unique reasons for term. We work with a couple of third-party consultants, and we start to build insights into our technology to be able to proactively help our clients identify who are current employees that may be at risk of leaving because of the amount of terminations we saw, and they may be compensated less than their peers. They may not have received a promotion or a merit increase in comparison to their peers. They may not be assuming the appropriate amount of overtime or earnings hours in comparison to their peers. They may be commuting to the office further than their peers. 12 million termination transactions. Give you some insight. We have a pretty good idea as to the why and when individuals may be looking to exit the organizations. So all of those transactions is what helps us provide the insight. And if there's no way to compare, right? So we have predictive insights to be able to benchmark your organization in your region, in your industry, national benchmarks to help you understand who may be at risk of exiting my organization, right? We've got retention, we've got time to fill. I'll get into it on the next slide here to be able to provide insights on the real results in ROI our clients are seeing through being able to leverage our data because of the amount of transactions. Every unique click that we see within Workforce Now is insights that we have the ability to be able to provide to our clients. And the last piece is making it human. Ensure again that every individual across the enterprise has a unique experience with how they interact with our technology. So a little bit of insight around like the nuts and bolts of how we do things at ADP. Here are some real results our clients are seeing through being able to leverage our data. Again, there's no way to improve if you don't have any type of baseline comparison. And so this was a study we conducted last year on 20,000 plus of our analytic and data users. And this is real results that they assumed and achieved over a 12-month period. So 50% of our metrics users were using reduction in time to hire by 27 days. I see every requisition that gets pushed out within Workforce Now. Some of the days to fill are upwards of 140, 150 days. So I'll tell you, moving the needle 27 days means a lot. Profile relevancy, candidate relevancy. We just talked about that story, connecting the dots to our high performer we currently have, trying to hire for that role as well, making sure that we're trying to identify an individual that looks, feels very similar to the individual that we currently have within that role. Our clients are also decreasing voluntary turnover costs by 20% or more. How are they doing that? Well, they know for every role across the enterprise, what is the cost to replace this individual should they exit based off of severance costs, cost to recruit, cost to train, and productivity loss. They know for every role, if they lose this individual, they're going to have to dump that money right back into the cost to recruit and cost to train, and then they have to pay out severance costs as well. They also know who are current employees, excuse me, that may be at risk to leave based off of the 12 million termination transactions we saw last year, and they may be undercompensated. They may travel too far. They may not be assuming the appropriate amount of earnings or overtime hours. So again, right, we have a pulse on your organization and giving you insights and surfacing these insights to be able to provide that for you. DE&I efforts, 45% of our equity users reducing the pay gap. You may be in a state where pay transparency is a real thing. You have to have that salary range in that initial requisition that you're pushing out. And the last one, optimization of labor costs. on average, 30% reduction in overtime. Transparency, visibility into the workforce, into the scheduling, ensuring that you're keeping up on that. And if your overtime is a necessity, you're reducing it as best you can. So real results, crazy, awesome. And if you're not receiving these through your current vendor, right, like a great opportunity for us to be able to have a conversation. I'm going to grab a sip of water here as I get into more around ADP Assist, which is our generative AI solution. Man, I should have pulled a poll question. Sorry, my apologies. Let's get over a call. All right, so ADP Assist, our generative AI solution that overlays on all of the solutions you have within Workforce Now. It has 3 specific use cases. There's a predictive element. So we can surface any anomalies across the organization. We let you know proactively the good and the not so good that's happening within the organization. So as you think about how that affects our service model. So I'll get into the specific use cases, but if you're a remote organization, you have employees in multiple states across the country. You have an employee that moves into a state where you're not currently set up with tax IDs. As soon as that employee goes into their employee profile, changes their address into a state where you're not set up with tax IDs, you're going to get notified within seconds. Looks like you have an employee in a state where you're not currently set up with IDs. Let me step by step walk you through how to acquire those so that from a compliance perspective, you're in a great spot. For any of you folks that are in the construction space, think about prevailing wages and how frequent and volatile that market can be. As soon as those changes happen, because we are so well connected to all of the major organizations that are out there specific to construction and unions and the wages, et cetera, right? You're going to get notified. You're going to make those changes on the fly. Think about everybody's got a pretty solid bi-weekly payroll. You're a bunch of salaried individuals. Maybe you have a couple of hourly people, right? That bi-weekly payroll is probably pretty similar, right? You're moving along, you're grooving, then all of a sudden you have a bonus, you have a commission run. You're going to pay that. Woo, we're going to bring that to your attention. Hey, this looks off. But so, human oversight is there. I understand. This is the bonus run, commission run. Keep going, process it. There's also nudge, right? Context-based nudge. Employee forgets to clock out at the end of the day. They're going to get a notification. Go back in, clock out. Managers, supervisors, preparing to close payroll at the end of a pay period. They're going to get notified. Think about open enrollment. I would have to assume most of the individuals on this call are like myself. I wait till the very last day to complete open enrollment. My wife always yells at me all the time. I'm sure that if we polled like 90% of organizations, 90% of employees probably wait until the last week of open enrollment to actually go in and be able to complete it. So we're going to continue to keep nudging these individuals and pushing these individuals to get it done sooner than later. The brokers are happy. The carriers are happy. Your benefit administration individual within HR is super happy too. And we also have the ability to be able to chat. Think about bots and think about some of the websites that you visited and you're chatting with a bot and all of a sudden, you're not getting the answer you need. They escalate your case, right? But again, think about what's driving the responsiveness of our tool. 75 years in the business. We are the pulse of pay. We have more clients, more individuals than any other competitor that's out there in the market. Our responses are accurate. And that's coming from a very, very deep and specific human capital management data set of structured and unstructured data that's pulled together that's driving the responsiveness of this tool. And we're making it specific. It's, again, unique to each individual across the organization and how they interact with the technology. Because if I'm a candidate, I'm applying for a position, I want the ability to be able to have insight into what's happening through my interview process. If I'm a manager, supervisor, I want to be able to see my own data, my team's data. And if I'm a supervisor, practitioner, or, again, administrator, executive, that there's specific data that I want to see. And it's all unique to the individual that's interacting with it. And again, it's all specific to the amount of data that we have. Not all AI is created equal. And what differentiates ADP versus any of our competitors is the very deep and very specific data set that's driving the responsiveness and surfacing the insights that we have the ability to be able to provide to our clients. So ADP Assist live today, especially for our next gen clients. And again, it's a very fast follow to our enterprise and to our global communications as well. But again, like chat features, predictive insights, the ability to be able to push and nudge. And I'll get into some of the specific use cases that you see here. Very quickly and easily, type into the ADP Assist, type into my chat. What's my turnover for sales in New York? Boom, you get it by department, by month, exactly what turnover looks like specific to your organization in New York. Tax registration, I just mentioned this one. You have multiple employees across states, remote, move into a new state, you're not set up with IDs, boom, we're going to be able to bring this and surface this to your attention so you can take action on it. Think about employees. Again, they forget to clock out, right? Like, boom, we're going to notify them. We're going to nudge them. We're going to be able to surface, why is my turnover higher this month in comparison to the last? We're going to bring this to your attention. Payroll exceptions. I mentioned this earlier, right? Think about your managers, supervisors. They've still got to make sure that they're going out and closing out their team. There's exceptions. They need to go in an override. Give them the ability to be able to do it. Job description creation. Need a job description? Right now, without this, without any type of generative AI tool, maybe you're going to ChatGPT. This could take you a day. This could take you 2 days. You're going to go to your CPA. You're going to go to your broker. You're going to go to Google. You're going to go to the best friend in the industry. And need a job description. You're going to build it out. Then you're going to need to get it approved, right? We have over 50 million resumes, right, within our skills aggregator within ADP. So we can very quickly and easily create job descriptions on the fly. Personal insights, mobile. It's mobile enabled. The ability to be able to get answers quick, easy. We have a great commercial that's out on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and you type in ADP Assist, you'll see exactly how this has the ability to improve your day-to-day. Virtual chat. Again, the ability to be able to, Siri, help me understand what my benefits enrollment looks like. Done within seconds. There's no doubt that generative AI is a solution and a technology that's going to improve your life and ensure that you are focusing on the strategic initiatives within your role. It's not going to take your role. Don't worry about robots. Don't worry about flying cars. Lean in and learn more about how this has the ability to be able to impact your current role in a positive way. And I think we've got our last poll question before I kick it over to my good friend Kevin.
Hey there, Max. So we are launching that poll question right now. It should be up and live for everyone out there in the audience. So with our third and somewhat final poll, we're asking, what is the one thing HR/payroll software still doesn't do well? I'm sure there's going to be some hot takes out there. But what we have as options, are seamless integration with other systems, that employment self-service, engagement features, any compliance, tax changes. We all know how huge that is as we're in tax season right now. Or, if you're like me and you want it to just make your coffee for you and also take care of your payroll and, run that futuristic robot life, I wouldn't turn that down. So far, we're with seamless integration. And, I think that's typically something we see across industries. Someone does want it to make their coffee, so I totally get that. Let's see. I'm intrigued to see, as we leave this open for a couple more seconds, if seamless integration really maintains that lead there. The first and fourth options are really popular today, so we shall see. We're still kind of split. I think we've got some other votes for making coffee and processing payroll. Okay, I'm going to give this just a few moments. Here's your last chance, but I think, I just realized I forgot to share this with everyone to see. I think we are going to end up with the seamless integration with other systems. I think that is a struggle that we all face in today's tech world. So back to you, Max.
Cool. Thanks, Courtney. And I believe at this point, I'm going to kick it over to my good friend Kevin to be able to walk you through a couple of things before we close it out.
Yep. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Courtney. Kevin Quain. I am the partner account manager at ADP with SWK, and my main role is to help small and mid-sized clients go through the digital transformation. So I'm glad, I was holding my breath, but the seamless integration with other systems, that was a planted poll question from me, because I wanted to talk about kind of what everything that Max just hit on and kind of break it down into like a few takeaways, maybe even just one. So we heard, first and foremost, as you know, there are many flavors with ADP. What we reviewed on today was Workforce Now. And what we hear is that a lot of small and medium businesses think ADP is too big, because from what we've been mentioning, we do own the majority of the market. In every industry, it'll be 18 to 22% is an ADP client. But I do want to highlight that our average size client is 132 employees. So really, of the 50,000 clients that are on Workforce Now today in the United States, 68% of them are between 50 and 150 employees. So that was really one of the main reasons why we're in partnership with SWK, and specifically with Sage Intacct and Acumatica, to partner really to help that solutions gap in the mid-market space. So a couple of other stats in here, but I did want to call out, if you are in the beginning stages of your digital transformation, whether that's ERP, financial management, payroll, and HR, I do want to underscore that in conjunction with Workforce Now, you can jump to the next slide, Max. There's really two that with SWK that we're partnering well with in Tech Stack. For those of you who are on Acumatica and that were at Summit in Vegas last month, we launched our partnership with Acumatica. And doing now, it's up to 50% seamless integration with other systems. The big gap is payroll, HR, and integrating that with accounting. These are the data points of the integration, but it's time, it's the dimensions, it's obviously the general ledger, it's the projects. You can sync those efficiencies from payroll, HR to Acumatica, and then from Acumatica back to timesheets, payroll, and HR. So that's Tech Stack 1. And then Tech Stack 2, if you can jump to the next one, Max, is Sage Intacct. So this partnership launched 2 years ago. We are the #1 payroll and HRIS vendor within Sage Intacct. This just launched 2 years ago, and we have 500 clients already on this solution. So again, if your tech stack of the ERP is Sage Intacct, this is Sage Intacct Payroll powered by ADP, which is Workforce Now, which is what's powering this solution. So those are our recommendations, and we are agnostic in each of the industries. So that rounds us out for the quick plug there on the digital transformation. I'll throw it back to Courtney if there's any Q&A.
Thank you, Kevin. So, I've dropped it in the chat a bit ago, but if you have some questions, go ahead and plug them into that Q&A section. I can pop Max back up here as well in case we have any for him to answer. But we've got two people with a lot of expertise, so this is a great time to get any questions you might have answered, AI related, HR payroll, questions about ADP. And so, as we see if we've got kind of a quiet audience today or people out there with questions, I have a couple questions, I want to ask you guys. So one of those is, you mentioned construction industry a couple different times throughout the presentation today. Can you address whether or not this solution can handle government type jobs?
Yeah, I can grab that one. Yeah, great question. We get pigeonholed into this as well a lot because from what Max mentioned earlier, ADP was always kind of, I'm 75 years, right, in the payroll business. And we were always kind of bucketed as a generalist. And for the longest time we were, but due to a couple of years ago in 2021, we made an acquisition with a group called IDI that can handle the prevailing wage, the certified payroll, the union complexities. and it's now embedded within the technology. So it's not a middleware. You're never going to leave the platform. All of those tables and wages and logic live within Workforce Now for you to automate. So yes, we can handle the government jobs, and then also what we were talking about for specifically for construction, it's tough to find talent, right? To employees, there's turnover. Using these analytics and the benchmarking to understand what the appropriate pay is, especially if you're acquiring a new company or going to a new state, we can run those analytics and benchmark learning management system for OSHA and all that. It's all in the system.
Okay, yeah, that's great to know. I know we have probably a good few people out there in construction in the audience, so always love to hear that. Another thing I'd like to ask you is more about the AI solutions we talked about today. So kind of all the AI related capabilities that you talked to around ADP, are all of those available right now, or are those things that are kind of on you guys' roadmap for the future?
So we continue to build out use cases. The use cases that I discussed will be available in the next couple of months. So I think April, May timeframe for our current clients that are out there. But we continue to build use cases. You think about enhanced workflows. You think about connectivity to, IT and company property, laptops, cell phones. Think about the termination process. A lot of people need to be, notified about terminations. Individual managers, supervisors, practitioners, a lot of brokers, carriers, right? There's a lot of technology and individuals that need to be notified about an individual that's leaving. Think for a second, with one click of a button, because of all the connectivity that we have, we can terminate an individual, ensure that all of the individuals from an employee or people perspective are notified. All of the technologies and all of our friends and benefits and brokers and all those are notified as well. While at the same time, we've already started the requisition to hire process to backfill that individual. And there's always the human oversight. So if we need to override it, we don't want to backfill that individual for leaving. We don't have to. But with one click of a button, I've terminated the individual, communicated out to all of those technologies and all the individuals that you need to know, and I've backfilled that individual and started the requisition to hire process. That is crazy. Think about autonomous payroll. If you don't have any issues, if there are no exceptions, nothing to override, all of your hourly people clocked in, clocked out appropriately, you're a pretty straightforward salary employee, right? You have salaried employees, right? Like, why click a button? Just do it. Just do it for me, right? To bring me up my Apple Maps and where I need to go, what location I need to go to, because you're starting to understand those patterns. That is crazy that's where we're getting to, but that's where we're going with this. So use cases to come, but the use cases that I discussed will be available this spring.
Wow, that is awesome to hear. And I'm sure a lot of people out there, we hear this all the time, how much of a pain payroll is across the board. So that is some really cool things coming around. We think we've got a question out there. So I've got one more question for you guys, and hopefully out there in the audience, maybe this has spurred some thought, or we've blown your minds today, or just like Max did, way too good of a job of explaining everything. But I do have one more poll to launch there that will be on the right-hand side of your screen. We would love for you to respond to this one. And this one's just asking, what's your next step after today's information? So there's a few options there. So, I know I'm asking a lot of different things at one time. Put a question in, do the poll, but we'll keep going through questions. And if you don't mind, we'd love to hear from you on that final poll while we, wrap up with our Q&A here. So another question I had for you is ADP an outsourced solution? Can you speak to that a bit?
It's such a loose word, isn't it? Outsource. I hear this a lot, and it's always the same concern because people assume outsourcing means they're losing control. So I prefer the phrase, it's a SaaS model, right? Kind of like how AI is not going to replace the human touch of the HR and the finance roles. These vendors obviously with like ADP and other ISVs, it's not going to replace the payroll person. So You're not outsourcing the payroll administration, you're outsourcing the tax filing, right? So when you submit the payroll, we withhold the federal, the local, the state taxes, and then we file them at the end of the quarter and then prepare the W-2s. Administration side, nothing changes. We need boots on the ground day to day. So a lot of these groups that are on legacy, like Great Plains, we know is sunsetting in the next couple of years. Sage 100, 300 legacy products, like Payroll is in that on-prem solution. That's where we're seeing like the biggest lift, where they're looking at Sage Intacct, they're looking at Acumatica to go into the cloud for accounting and ERP, but they also need an answer for payroll for doing that. So that's why we have such a strong relationship with SWK, because in conjunction, we solve that problem into the cloud.
That's great to know. And we did get a couple questions out there from the audience. So I think taking this back, Max, to what we were talking about with the AI solutions, we got a question of when will this be rolled out? I think the answer there was April, late spring. Can you give a reminder there a little bit?
Yep, April, May timeframe.
Perfect. Okay. And then another question is more around you guys' integration. So I know we touched on Sage Intacct and Acumatica, which is a big part of SWK and the solutions we provide here. But someone also asked, does ADP sync with NetSuite as an ERP system? And in general, is there any other ERP systems that you guys work with?
Yeah, so with any ERP or an accounting system, we'll always have the manual import export of the general ledger. So that's not an issue. A connector, we work with a third party called FlexSpring. If you know anyone at Oracle that can help meet us in the middle of building the connector to NetSuite, we'll be all ears. But that is one of the ERPs that is on the roadmap. The only other one that's next, and like really besides Intacct and Acumatica, is an accounting system called Epicor. But the lion's share of all the success is definitely with Intacct and Acumatica from the tech stack with ADP.
Yeah, and obviously, biased over here at SWK, but there's a reason we're such fans of Intacct and Acumatica and those solutions, especially the power that they have once they're paired with ADP. But I think that, just final ask, if you haven't completed that final poll, we'd love to hear from you. A bit cut off here, but as always, you can reach us at info@swktech.com. We'd love to connect you with Max, Kevin, some of their other teammates that we work really closely with if you want to learn more. And then, Max, Kevin, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. I know I learned, I use AI a lot, but I learned a lot about the implications and the blueberry raspberry. That's such a fun factoid to kind of make it simpler to understand. And the AI solutions that you guys are coming out with this April sound super powerful and super intriguing. So I can't wait to see more and hear more. And if you're out there in the audience and you're like me and, some of these things sound really cool and like daily life-changing kind of things, definitely let us know, reach out. We'd be happy to connect you with the team and talk about how, some of these can become a part of your daily life and some of these AI solutions in HR and payroll. So thank you all.
Thanks, Courtney. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Courtney. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone out there. Have a great rest of your day.